Left of the box. Um, but also earlier there was a little bit of news. Yes, I'm covering news, so it makes sense that there's a little bit of news that I'm covering. Um, it was all over social media. I didn't know because this is about a by-election, and I didn't know how much time I wanted to spend on a specific by-election. But then this kind of ties into the narrative of this particular sequence I'm talking about. So the NDP defends Montreal by-election candidate Craig Saab over Palestinian flag on pamphlet. It's ludicrous to suggest that when politicians is seen with another flag, it's un-Canadian, party says. And so this is the pamphlet here that the politician was sending out. Now, keep in mind, this pamphlet was specifically about foreign relations, and he's running for a federal seat, and the federal government is that's where the foreign relations get dealt with. So this isn't just a single, like the only pamphlet they sent out. This one was specifically about foreign relations. So the NDP is leaping to the defense of Montreal by-election candidate Craig Schwab after he was criticized for using a Palestinian flag on an election pamphlet. Now, it is nice, again, that the NDP is actually going to their defense, because with the Ontario NDP, when Sarah Jama pushed back and said, we need to stop the conflict, have a ceasefire, all that sort of stuff, just days after October 7th, and basically referred to Palestinians as humans, the Ontario NDP kicked her out of caucus. So it's nice to see, at least on a federal level, that they're sticking by their candidate. So Craig Schwab included a maple leaf on the leaflet in question and frequently poses with the Canadian flag and Quebec flags, both of which he deeply loves and respects, says a statement from the party. It's ludicrous to suggest that when a politician is seen with another flag, it's un-Canadian, whether that's the Ukrainian flag, Israeli flag, Palestinian flag, or other nations. Schwab's Montreal councillor is running in what's shaping to be a tight race in the riding of La Salle Verdun, formerly held by ex-Justice Minister David Lametti. The vote is for tomorrow, September 16th. The pamphlet, which has drawn criticism from conservatives and the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, CIJA, depicts Schwab on the cover with the Palestinian flag behind him. So this is rich coming from this group. A disgraceful attempt by an NDP candidate, Craig Schwab, to import foreign conflict into Quebec and Canada in a bid for votes. Jagmeet Singh and the NDP are turning their backs on Canada and our values, fueling anti-Semitism in the process. I'm sorry, but what does the I stand for in this organization? Mm-hmm. So they're getting all bent out of shape for this. What does that I stand for? Oh, the Center for Israel. Would Israel not be a foreign nation? So are you not being an organization that likes to get in the face of like all the media here in Canada all the time? Would that not be doing exactly what you're scolding him for doing? Seems kind of hypocritical there. Like, oh no, a disgraceful attempt, Canada, in a bid to import foreign conflict. Yeah, and that is their entire thing. That is their entire shtick, the CIJA. That's their entire shtick. Conservative Deputy Leader Melissa Landsman and other prominent conservatives posted images of the pamphlet on X and asked NDP leader Jagmeet Singh to state whether he approved of the pamphlet. Keep in mind, most of these people, and we'll get to them, often pose with other flags in the background all the time. So speaking in Iqaluit, Nunavut on Monday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre described the NDP's use of the Palestinian flag as radical. The radical NDP is once again dividing Canadians with incinerating extremist rhetoric that puts the Jewish community at risk. How does showing a Palestinian flag put the Jewish community at risk? Just again, Pierre loves to do this to reporters where he wants them to kind of spell things out. Well, I would like him to spell this out. How does showing a nation that is currently suffering a genocide, how does putting their flag on a pamphlet talking about foreign affairs, how does that endanger Jewish people? Like, the people in danger right now are Palestinians. They're the ones that are getting bombed by Canadian bombs. Bloc Québécois leader Yves François Blanchet said the NDP can do whatever they want. People will make a choice. He also suggested bringing the issue up in a by-election is not a path he would take. Well, that's a little bit more neutral, I guess, considering all the other things that Quebec tends to do when it comes to, freedom of expression with the religion. I believe that civilians are dying and have been dying for months and months, and I would be very, very careful before making an electoral, political, and ideological use of this issue, Blanchette said on Monday in Ottawa. So Gaza's impact on LaSalle Ahmad Verdun. Since the war broke out in Gaza following on Hamas, okay, we know when this happened. The conflict has also displaced 90% of Gaza's 2.3 million people from their homes and caused heavy destruction across the besieged territory. The NDP has been crystal clear on our position in support of a ceasefire and the release of all hostages because we believe in protecting both Israeli and Palestinian lives. The NDP statement continues. Okay, so we get that. And then we go to here. So, I have, let's get, is there we go. So this is the mayor here. Mayor, town of Hampstead. So this is the mayor of the town where this by-election is happening, saying this is sheer madness. The NDP blatantly shows they don't prioritize Canada. If they truly stood for this country, their candidate's flyer would proudly display our Canadian flag, not a foreign one. A vote for the NDP is a vote against Canada, plain and simple. And as mentioned, he's done plenty of photo ops and stuff in front of Canadian flags. Like, it's just a thing. And then as somebody is pointing out, like, Hey, Mayor, why shouldn't he appear with the Palestinian flag when your pal, Anthony Horsefarter, rocks the Israeli flag? Serious question, need your answer. Yes, Anthony Horsefarter is a well-known Zionist within the Liberal Party, the Federal Liberal Party, and every chance he gets, he's showing off the Israeli flag. You can see a lot of candidates, conservative and liberal, with the Israeli dog tags, Israeli pins, Israeli flags in the background, saying how much they support Israel. But how dare this one candidate, pose with a Palestinian flag? How dare he? Like, the hypocrisy when it comes to right wing, and yes, Zionism is definitely right wing. It's so blatant. It's so obvious. But it's like, I'm almost wondering, like, do they even understand their own hypocrisy, or are they too much up their own ass that they don't get what they're doing? How this is hypocritical, how, no, it's okay when I do this, but when other people do it, it's totally not okay. Something I have been hoping for and kind of asking for is to Jagmeet to actually be a little bit more vocal on this issue. And we finally had it. Way late to the table, because a lot of the NDP MPs have been vocal on this. They have spoken out forcefully the way that I had hoped that Jagmeet Singh would actually speak out. And here he is, finally doing it. About how long ago? Was almost like 11 months too late. It's been almost a year. Wow. It's been almost a year since this started. And here we have finally a forceful statement from Jagmeet Singh about this. So let's listen in.
There is nothing more Canadian than being worried about justice and peace, than caring about justice and peace in the region, than being heartbroken over seeing the violence and the loss of life and the deaths and the killing. And we fundamentally believe that Canada is not doing its part to stop a genocide from happening in Gaza. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have...
He actually said the genocide in Gaza. Finally.
Trudeau and the Liberals have failed Canadians on this, and people feel really let down. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives would be even worse on this. We're the only party that's consistently said we need to take every action possible as a nation to promote and protect peace and justice.
It hasn't been too consistent on that, but again, credit where credit is due. He is saying something now.
In Gaza and across the world. Last question.
So, it seems like finally, because I've had a lot of criticism about Jagmeet Singh and his political instincts being way off, this is finally a good call. And I think if he stepped up more about this would actually, maybe help get people energized and want to vote for the NDP. And this was tweeted out by the Serfs, just saying, in a press conference today, Jagmeet Singh defended his NDP candidate who used a Palestinian flag in his official campaign material and said Canada has failed to do everything it can to stop the genocide in Gaza. So here we go. Finally, Jagmeet Singh is having some political tact there. He's finally doing what would be good for yeah, and then he does this. Trudeau's carbon tax loses support as NDP steps back. The NDP will release its plan in the next few months, leader Jagmeet Singh said. So, you know how desperate Pierre Poilievre is to make this election about the carbon tax? Well, here's Jagmeet Singh saying, we gotcha. And we're doing the exact same thing. Could we not make this about the carbon tax? Because all that is a catchphrase that people don't understand. And it gets people upset and angry and stuff. But there's so many other priorities Canadians have. Jagmeet, don't focus on this. Especially not like this. So federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said on Thursday that his party disagrees with Trudeau's approach for exempting fuel favored in certain provinces and that he wants a policy that doesn't put the burden on the backs of working people where big polluters have to pay their fair share. Is this actually the video that I want to watch on it? Let's see.
Let's also be clear about Pierre Poilievre's position. He wants to have free reign for big polluters to pollute as much as they want. His plan is to say there should be no penalty if a company pollutes into the river or into the water or into the air in their communities. So that's his plan. He wants big polluters to do whatever they want, no rules for them. We're saying that they should be paying their fair share. A company that pollutes and poisons the environment, there should be a price on that. There should be a cost to that. They shouldn't be able to get away with poisoning our air or water or land without any penalty at all. That's what Pierre Poilievre is proposing. When it comes to workers, though, we disagree with the approach of Justin Trudeau, who's tried to pit workers against each other. He set up a scenario where in certain regions, based on electoral politics, he's giving advantages to the Atlantic provinces over other parts of the country. We disagree with that. I've came out very strongly opposed to that approach. We want to see an approach to fighting the climate crisis where it doesn't put the burden on the backs of working people, where big polluters have to pay their fair share, they have to pay the price of their pollution, but it shouldn't be on working people's shoulders. And so we've been working on a plan and we'll be releasing our plan, our vision for how we can do that in a stronger way in the coming months.
Oh, okay. So you're now making a big deal about the carbon tax, saying you're no longer supporting Justin Trudeau. You're sensationalizing it, which only really helps Pierre Poilievre when it comes down to it, only to say, yeah, we don't really have a plan right now. We'll release something in a few months, maybe. If you're no longer going to support Justin Trudeau on the carbon tax and you're going to make it a big deal, you might want to wait till you can say what your plan is before you do that. Because again, all this does right now is help Pierre Poilievre. It helps make it seem like the Liberals are being a big boogeyman type thing when it comes to the carbon tax. And again, personally, I don't know enough about it to really dive into saying yay or nay about it. I do know that we get the carbon tax rebates, which is helpful, that people who are on the lower end of income tend to actually get more from it than it costs them, and all this sort of stuff. And things, yes, things have to get done to help the environment. But to suddenly back out of this, to make the carbon tax now center stage without even without having your replacement in place, is just really, really poor political instinct. Just so frustrating. Like, he was better off just saying nothing. Just say nothing about it. Just don't say that, oh no, we don't like it, and we don't like what the Conservatives want either, but we're not going to tell you what we're going to do. Like, we're going to release something in a few months. That's not the way to do it. And the thing is that it's not just Jagmeet Singh I'm disappointed in. It seems like when a lot of people in the NDP get into power, they become really big disappointments. Like, you have David Eby in the Premier of British Columbia. There are some things like, yeah, sure, he's good on a few things, but then there are some things where he's basically in line with Conservatives. And a little while ago, there was an election in Manitoba, and it was the person elected was Wab Kinew, the first Indigenous person elected into the Premier office. I can't remember if it's in the country or just that province, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was in the country. And there was all this high hope about him, that this was great. Manitoba NDP doubles down on failed tough on crime agenda. The NDP should instead commit resources to life-sustaining investments in education, housing, and other social services. As the one-year anniversary of the Manitoba NDP's October 2023 election victory nears close, major question marks remain around Premier Wab Kinew's priorities for his first term in office. After campaigning on fixing healthcare system the Conservatives gutted in the years before the pandemic, provincial funding remains dismally insufficient. Oh, and this is from Canadian Dimension. Now many thousands of unionized health support workers, represented both by Manitoba Government General Employees Union, MGEU, and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE, are in strike positions over wages that are among the lowest in the country. The NDP's supposed commitment to unions and public services is already clashing with its fiscal policy of regressive tax cuts and ambitions to balance the provincial budget. Kinew is now invoking the routine right-wing talking point of belt tightening ahead of the next provincial budget, seeming to confirm his 2015 assertion that on fiscal issues, I would be 100% open to a Conservative platform. So let's skip down to some of this. So, new funding for bail reform, despite deep-seated and persistent issues in Canada's bail system, with upward of 3/4 of Manitoba's prisoner population being held in pre-trial detention, the NDP ushered in police demanded changes that awarded the WPS an additional $3 million in annual funding to hire a dozen more cops to track down offenders who violate their bail conditions. That's what we need. We need more cops just tracking down people who are potentially just not even hurting anyone, that just violate their bail conditions. That's what we need to spend millions of dollars on, is for that. Of course, of course. Well, VEG, just over $1 million more, was committed to bail-related data and intelligence gathering and enhancing community monitoring supervision. This announcement was publicly endorsed by the National Police Federation and the WPS and criticized by the Assembly of Manitoba's Chiefs. Yeah, when you have any police federation, police union saying, good job, you've done something wrong. Provincial budget massively increase spending on police. Oh, lots of spending on police. The NDP's first budget quietly increased spending on provincial policing by almost 30 million. Yeah, never mind that healthcare that you need to look after. Let's make sure the police get even more money. With about half going towards urban policing grants, this huge funding boost was described as the first budgeted increase since 2017 and better reflects current costs of delivering police services to all Manitobans. You know what? Can you focus on healthcare first? And that goes for every province. Healthcare first. Let's make sure that every citizen's healthcare needs are taken care of before you start pumping up any sort of police budget. And ideally, don't even bother with that. I'm all for defund, dismantle, reinvent when it comes to any sort of policing service. But could we please prioritize healthcare and make sure everyone's needs are met in that category first before you spend millions on hunting down people who maybe violated a bail condition? Like, we're talking about people who didn't check in, maybe because they had a job, maybe because they were in a meeting or got caught up with something or forgot because they're human. There's so many hoops that you have to jump through when you're on bail that to spend money just tracking down people who maybe forgot to do a check-in, come on. It can be assumed that much of the recent spending on policing is being drawn from this huge pot, although there's no transparent reporting about it. No transparency, another conservative trend. Winnipeg's most recent city budget reported an almost 60% increase in provincial funding to the WPS, that would be the Winnipeg Police Service, from 19 million in 2023 to 30 million in 2024, including millions more in police-involved downtown safety, missing person response, and a recently revived warrant apprehension unit. And you get the point. There's more of it. There's more of it. You can go to the article. You can read it all yourself. What a disappointment. And David Moskrop here, he's a journalist, writer for Globe and Mail, Washington Post, and other places, just saying, I remain utterly convinced that if the NDP went back to this iteration of itself and found a leader to match, built a grassroots movement, and ditched the cringe TikTok shit, it could thrive. And this was tweeted out by Steve Boots. Man, I remember when the NDP believed in this stuff. And that is teeny tiny, so I'm going to do this. And I will go to this shot while I set this up in a different screen. I have high hopes that there will be a leadership race soon in the NDP. And my high hopes is for Matthew Green to take on that position. I have the sense that he's going for it. He's gunning for it. And I think he would do a great job. But I have very little faith that a lot of these leaders will actually follow through and be the candidates that they said that they're going to be when they were running. Like, it's happening all over the place, and it's just so frustrating because it's par and course for conservatives to lie when they're running for leadership. And then once they get into leadership, totally go back on so many things that they said and that sort of stuff. And it's just so disappointing when you see the NDP do it as well. That they run on being these progressive type people, but then as soon as they're in office, as soon as they're in power, it's... And, you know, I look at the Ontario NDP here. They don't reflect the base. You know, the person that they ended up electing in to be the leader of the Ontario NDP is very privileged, not like landlord type rich person, and that's not a reflection of what the NDP used to stand for. Statement of principles adopted from the 12th Federal NDP Convention in Regina, July 1st, 1983. The new Democratic Party believes the pursuit of peace and democratic socialism are the two imperatives of a more secure and just modern world. We believe that as peace must prevail over war, so must cooperation and mutual responsibility prevail over private gain and competition as the guiding principles of social economic life. We seek a compassionate and caring society servicing the needs of all. The New Democratic Party is proud to be part of a great worldwide movement of democratic socialist parties which have always striven to replace oppression and privilege with democracy and equality. Our end socialists around the world share as their goal a social form which exploitation of one person by another, of one class by another, of one group by another, or sex by another will be eliminated. We believe in a society where each person will have the chance to develop his or her talent to the full. This ideal, a society based on equality within a world of equal respect nations, is the majority aim of democratic socialism. What I see when the NDP finally get into positions of power is not that. I see them cowering to corporations, becoming more liberal light, just a different shade of liberal. And in some instances, some of the policies that they fall to are so severe that they are in line with conservatives. We need a real progressive party in this country. This country is craving it. A progressive populace. We are craving it. And I hope that if Matthew Green gets into office, or gets into leader of the federal NDP, that he is the person he's claiming to be now, and that he retains that, because that could be life-changing, life-saving for so many people if we got the policies that they actually pretend to run on in place. That if we go back to the roots of the NDP, because again, it was the NDP originally, when they propped up the Liberal government way back when, that we got our version of universal health care. But ever since then, the Conservatives and the Liberals have been chipping away, trying to get that back before it was. But if we got like a real populist NDP party in, it would be life-saving for so many people. The quality of life of people, for everyone, regardless of which party you vote for, would drastically improve. It's so disappointing when you have these leaders that are up there that just, their political instinct sucks. They're like, oh no, we need to pander to the center. We need to pander to the right. No, you need to pander based on policy. Progressive policy. When you remove, the left-right tint to it, don't say this is a progressive policy. Don't say that this is, a left-wing thing. Just go on the policy. If you strip away the party politics, most people in Canada agree on what they want. And if the NDP was actually honest and went back to their roots, they would represent that. And that's what we need. Because when you have something like this, Laura Stone is a reporter, and she caught this from, I guess, a press conference or something from September 12th. Ford is now praising Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew, even though he's politically misguided to be part of the NDP. You get to know him, you would never think he's part of that party. If it gets to the point that Doug Ford is thinking, yeah, you're doing all right, you've done something wrong. Soy vey. So Grand Theft Autobot saying, just FYI, his name is pronounced Soy vey, not Suave. Got it. Now that I'm no longer doing that article and probably not talk about him again. I am so not good at pronouncing names. I knew it was French, but French is a very tricky language to read because the letters pretty much mean nothing. They mean nothing. They don't. There's no grammatical consistency. There's so many letters that are just thrown in there that aren't pronounced that it becomes impossible to learn French by reading it. Because then when you hear it, you have no clue what people are saying. Bad Lefty saying, oh, come on. He's only 11 months late. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. If he had stepped up more forcefully right at the beginning, then there's a far better chance Sarah Jama would have never been kicked out of the NDP caucus, the Ontario NDP caucus. Like, if there was that show of strength on the federal level NDP, because again, they are separate parties. Like, they're not the same thing. You're not voting in the federal NDP when you're voting in a provincial NDP. However, especially here in Ontario, the two parties are very interconnected. Like when it comes to volunteer bases or even sharing convention space and things of that sort, because, you know, the capital of Canada is in Ontario and stuff, and almost half the population of the country is in Ontario. So they do a lot of sharing of resources and stuff. So I think if Jagmeet had actually made a strong stand or spoken out strongly against the Ontario NDP kicking out Sarah Jama, then things would have been different. But no. Let's make it about the carbon tax. How about that? Crotchety, yes, I think Dave Eby does seem to lean right on enough issues that's getting noticeable, like temporary closing safe inspection sites because some Conservative MP raised an alarm about it. I have a video that I did a long time ago, back when I was still just doing kind of video essay things, about, it covered the wildfires in BC and the heat dome that happened there. And I found some disconcerting similarities between the NDP, the BC NDP, and the Conservative Party. So feel free to go back and look at that. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with the BC NDP. Like, that's the thing. I don't, even if the Ontario NDP were to get in right now with their current leadership, I have zero faith much would change. They would just run this province like the Liberals.